Hey guys, so I just wanted to prepare a mini lecture for our reading for this week, which is about art versus pornography. And in sum, the chapter is basically asking the question, what differentiates these two? We're used to thinking about pornography as something other than art, and we're used to thinking about female nude forms in fine arts as not being pornographic. And this reading is kind of trying to problematize all of our assumptions about these two realms that depict human sexuality, especially female nudity and female sexuality. So I know I don't do lectures for all of our readings. The reason I did choose to do one for this is because I wanted to just kind of give you a debriefing about the chapter because I know that it's a little bit more wordy. I know there's certain just vocabulary and concepts that many of you may be unfamiliar with. So I wanted to give you guys a quick summary of what the chapter is really saying. Another thing I wanted you guys to note is that you'll see I've marked all of the important stuff in yellow, so read just the highlighted parts. If you would like to tackle the whole chapter, you're more than welcome to, but if you just stick to the highlighted parts, that's sufficient for you guys to have some main takeaways. Finally, the last thing I want to mention about this reading is that it is the introductory chapter of a book. So you will notice that the author is kind of introducing the chapters that follow in the book, and he's kind of summarizing each of the arguments that each of the author makes in the chapters. So that's why it's gonna just sound like a set of summaries because it actually is. It's the intro to a book. All right. So that being said, I just want to keep it really short. Really all the reading is trying to do is interrogate or question the common ways in which we think about pornography and how we separate it from art. In a nutshell, pornography is thought as being less than art, not art, or at best bad art, because it tends to be like really explicit. It tends to not have much effort put into it. People think that it's non-creative, and it's really not trying to appeal to human emotions. It's just trying to have this utilitarian effect of basically satisfying people's sexual needs, right? So for that reason, it's been considered as something other than art. But here the author is arguing, why is that? Why do we assume that people who make pornography don't take their craft seriously? That people who act in pornography are not artists, that they're not creative beings, and that they're just kind of trying to do something superficial. The article also mentions one of the ways we think about pornography as different from erotic art, such as Michelangelo's nudes or Picasso's nudes of women, or many of the nudes that you might have seen in Renaissance paintings and whatnot, is that pornography is seen as more exploitative and as exploiting women in a very particular way. But as one of the arguments in the chapter shows, the same can actually be said of erotic art. Ultimately, one of the arguments in this chapter is that if you look at classic nudes of women, they're really just depicting female sexuality in this very submissive way. And reinforcing male dominance, reinforcing that women really are going to be naked for the male gaze. So if we think about erotic art, especially even Renaissance classics that way, then really what makes them different from pornography, in which women are said to be exploited also, right? Also, of course, nowadays you can think about the question of women's exploitation and pornography through many different lenses. There are women who make pornography. There are women who are in charge of making their own pornography, being their own bosses, and so on and so forth. So, as far as exploitation goes, you think about women in classic art from the perspective of female exploitation also. In sum, I think what this article is really saying, or what this book chapter is really saying, is that if you tried to make two columns and you said, this is what makes porn porn, and this is what makes art art, you're going to find that they have overlapping categories. So there is no hard line that can be drawn between pornography and art, and in anything in life, any argument or any debate you have in which people ask you to make distinctions that are very cut and dried, you'll probably find that it's a near impossibility to do that. Usually the lines are blurred between things and there's never really a solid line. I want to keep this video short. I just wanted to give you a little brief message about what the article is in general saying, but again, the reminder is read just the yellow highlighted parts. I've done that to make the reading easier for you. And if you have any questions, if there's a part that you just don't get because it used words that you've never heard before or whatever, the discussion board is the place to mention that. So just quote the passage you didn't understand and say, I have no idea what the heck this is talking about. And then I'll come in there and I'll explain it to you. And again, I encourage classmates to have a respectful discussion with one another about this. Have any questions, discussion board, or you can inbox me, you can email me. And I hope you get something useful, a little bit of critical analysis out of this reading. I'll see you guys.